Hey guys, welcome back to Maple Syrup Tech. I'm Rick, and today we're going to be looking at another build, and it's actually a special one. It's my eldest daughter's first computer. So she's 12. She actually wants to try computer gaming, which I would prefer strongly over console gaming. So I gave her a budget basically where she could choose a couple of new elements, and the rest of the stuff that we're going to be using for the build, we're actually going to be digging out of my used parts. So in a couple of minutes, you guys are going to see what my wife calls my dungeon, which is where I keep all my spare parts and whatnot. And we're going to be building a basic budget gaming computer. And I'm going to be giving you prices as we go along with the used parts of what I would expect you to be able to pick up these parts. Because most of these parts I actually picked up myself on personal ads and Craigslist and whatnot. So I do know what you can pick them up for, and we're going to be fixing a price for a budget computer as we go. So let's just go over the three parts that my daughter chose that are brand new. So we got a budget case, which is the BitPhoenix Nova. Right now, here in Canada, there's a really good special on it at NCIX. We got it for only 35 bucks. So honestly, for a BitPhoenix case, it is a basic case, like there's not much airflow options in it, but for a basic starting case, when we look at the $30 options out there, I feel way more secure with a BitPhoenix Nova than with most of the other $35 budget cases out there. So we're going to be throwing in a couple of fans in the front. There's a fan included in the back. We're going to maybe be swapping it out. We're going to look, I'm going to see how it shows up on when I turn it on and whatnot. But overall, the case, I'm pretty happy. It's a nice white finish. It's all aluminum, and basically, you know, it's a decent looking case for a first computer. Power supply, we're going with something basic, EVGA 430 watt, 80 plus certified power supply. We don't need more than that because we're going to be going with only one graphics card, and we have it right there. It's a RX-460, so there's no way we're going to be needing more than 430 watts for this build. So this is a perfect power supply. Once again, got it for 35 bucks at Canada Computers. Very, very good deal. For here in Canada, because you don't get power supplies for under like 50 bucks normally, at least not from a brand name that has a good reputation, I would say. Not that the others have bad reputations, but they are just meh normally. And lastly, I got a Gigabyte RX-460 for only $100 bucks. For Canada, that is a steal, because normally they're around 150 up here. So for 100 bucks, a Gigabyte RX-460, because obviously the 560 was around the corner, so I managed to pick one up before it came out, where sites were pretty much trying to liquidate, I imagine, the rest of their RX-460s that they had in stock. This doesn't even need to be plugged into the power supply. It pulls its power directly from the motherboard. Like I said, that's why we don't need anything more than a 430 watt. So it's a good starting point. So obviously, next thing we're going to go look at, you're going to be seeing me scrounging through my dungeon and picking out parts as we go along to make a decent but budget gaming build, something decent for a first time computer. I'm aiming that she can play between medium to high, even maybe a little bit of ultra settings on a lot of 1080p games. We're not aiming for higher than that, but I want her to be able to run pretty much every AAA title, at least at medium, which the RX-460 will be more than enough for that. So we're going to be comparing a CPU, a motherboard, some memory, a hard drive, with that in mind. So let's go look at my dungeon. Hey guys, so welcome back. Here we're looking at the outside of my dungeon. Now the lighting down here might be so-so, and the sound on the camera might be so-so as well, because I won't be able to be using my external mic. So we're going to be using the basic camera mic, so sorry about the sound if it's not that great. And I'm going to try to keep the camera as steady as we can. Don't worry, when I'm actually going to be crawling around in there, I'm going to set up the camera on the tripod and everything will be steady once again. But I just wanted to give you a quick look at what my dungeon looks like. So as you can see here, I have systems that I haven't pulled apart. I have basic bins there full of parts of systems that I've pulled apart and that I have spare parts or things that I've picked up. And it keeps going you can't really see it very well, but basically if you see right there in the corner, it's bins over bins over bins of parts. So I'm going to be crawling around in there, and we're going to be getting what we need to build our computer today. And like I said, I'm going to be giving approximate values of what they're probably worth, and we're going to take it from there. So once again, sorry about the lighting down here if it isn't the best in the world, and sorry about the sound as well if it's maybe not on par as what we have normally in the videos, but I think it's just going to be a fun experience to see me dig around in there and pull out some treasures that we can find to build ourselves a computer today. So stay tuned, and you're gonna see me digging. Okay, well, we have our first find. Basically, so a 8 gigabyte kit of DDR3 Ripjaw X RAM. So I think we're going to be focusing on a platform that uses DDR3 because I found this kit right at the top of my stuff. So really decent RAM. It's 1600, 8 gigabytes over two DIMMs, so pretty decent. And at the same time, I found a couple of Corsair AF fans. So yeah, pretty good first find here. So for this a G.Skill kit like this, like up here in Canada, I'd say like what, 25 bucks, maybe 30 bucks max. Even you know, I tried to get them for around 20. And a couple of Corsair fans like this, like what, three bucks each, something like that, if you can find them. Corsair AF fans, so basically airflow fans, which are perfect for the front of the case. So we're off to a good start here. Well, we have another successful find. Actually, if you guys follow my channel and follow my videos, the last video I did, which was basically a build, an installation guide to on AM3, AM4, we're going to be using the motherboard and the CPU I used for that example, because actually it's a pretty decent CPU. It's an AMD FX 6300, which is, look, it's not state-of-the-art, it's not going to break any records, but it's a decent chip for low-level gaming, and to pair with the RX-460, I don't think we really need more than that. It's going to fit with the DDR3 RAM kit we found a couple of minutes ago. And it's a pretty decent board. It's a M5A 97LE, which means that we're going to be able to overclock the CPU as far as we want to go, or we can try to go as far as we want to go, and as long as we keep the thermals in check. And actually, I think we're going to be using the CPU cooler. I saw it in there too, the same one we used in the example. So I think we're going to be using that in our build. So let's go. I'm going to put that aside, and we're going to go dig back in. Okay, we've got the last things we need, guys. So we got the cooler, like I said, the DeepCool. This is a Gammaxx 300. Should provide some decent cooling, let us overclock pretty decently on the CPU we have. We'll see what it gives. If not, I know I have a Hyper 212 somewhere in there if really we're not getting decent results. And I'm going to put in a couple of hard drives. We're not going to go with an SSD because, like I said, it's her first gaming PC, and if she has to wait a couple of minutes for a game to start up, it's not the end of the world. So it's a 300 and a 320 gigabyte hard drives. We're going to be putting both of them in there so that she can put her games on one operating system on the other. It's easier, you know, generally that way, so you can swap it around. You can actually take your hard drive out if you want to, you know, plug it into another system or whatnot once your games are installed. So I always set up one hard drive just for my games, one for my operating system. So we're good to go now. So we've got the CPU, we've got the motherboard, we've got the memory, we've got the cooler, we've got the storage, and upstairs we've got the graphics card, we have the case, and we have the power supply. So we are good to go. All we need to do is go and install all that in our build. So next thing we are going to see, guys, is the time lapse of me putting all this stuff together. guys, I hope you liked the time lapse. Before we go any further, I just want to clear one thing up. Yes, I did originally install the power supply upside down in the case because I was going through this build really quickly just to give you, how it was happening. I was leaving on vacation and I had to go to the airport, so I had 45 minutes to bang out this build before I left, so that basically things were done before I left, because I didn't want to have to build the computer on my way back and have the parts like strewn out over the floor while I was gone. So yes, I did install the power supply, which I did flip the right way around at the end of the build. You didn't see it because I actually noticed it when I was wiring when I was bunching up the cables and finishing up the wiring. So don't give me too much grief on that. It can happen to anyone when you're going quick. 45 minutes to put a build together wasn't very much, so that's why that happened. Okay, but now let's get back to the end of the build. So honestly, I'm satisfied with the build, but I've got to tell you, the only thing I would maybe have invested a tiny bit more in is a case, because I'm a little bit disappointed with the BitPhoenix Nova. There is like absolutely no cable management options. There's one cutout at the bottom that you could sneak your power supply cables through, but the problem is that basically there's like no place between the frame and the back panel, so any power supply cables that you would pass through there will prevent you from closing the back panel. Like there's literally like maybe I'd say less than 5 millimeters of space to work in between the frame and the back panel. So if I had to start over just so that I could actually hide some of this this cable garbage down here, I would go like $10 more and get some like a closer to $50 case, but something that will have at least basic cable management options. But other than that, everything has been satisfactory in the build. I'm satisfied with the results as well, which is what we're going to be looking at. So basically, if we start, let's just run down a price list on everything, because half of the parts are used, as you saw at the beginning of the video, half are new. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a rundown of how much you should be expecting to pay for the parts I use if you're looking or hunting on the used market to make this build. So start with the CPU, an FX 6300. Right now, there's no way on the used market you should be paying more than $40 for that CPU, because number one, it's about $100 new with a cooler. If you're buying just the CPU, there's no way you should be able to find someone that isn't willing to part with it for about $40. For the motherboard, which is the Asus M5A97LE Revision 2.0, once again, $40 is the max I would pay anyone for them, and this is what we're going to be using for the price that we're going to do. I'm putting the max that I would pay for on the used market, these parts, if I really wanted to build a similar computer and I didn't already have them. For the DeepCool cooler, I went with just a standard price. You can get it for $15 on sale. I wouldn't start hunting around for used CPU coolers, so for $15, just pick up a new one. You'll be guaranteed that everything will be good that way. For the RAM kit, it's a DDR3 G.Skill 1600 megahertz kit. $25. $25 is the max I would pay for something. DDR3 is on the way out. 8 gigabyte kits are the bare minimum, so 2 times 4 gigabytes you shouldn't be paying more than $25 for a kit like that. For the hard disk drives, 2 times 320 gigabytes. I would pay more than $10 for both of them together, so like $5 each, because hard drives, you never know how long they're going to last. You don't know how long the person before you was using it, and if it was rolling 24/7. So for any hard drives that I buy that are under 1 terabyte, I go for bargain bin prices. If you're not going to sell them for me for like $5, forget it. I'm just going to find someone else who will, because you'll always find people with stacks of hard drives that they're stuck with. After that, we're getting all to the new parts. So we're going for the case, the BitPhoenix Nova, $35, the Gigabyte RX-460, $100, and the EVGA 430 watt white power supply, $35. And oh, I forgot, I threw in a couple of fans, used fans, like 120 millimeter fans. I would say $5 for the 2 of them, because you'll find people willing to sell 2, 3, so you get a package deal or something. So in grand total, this build is a $300 build. So for a $300, you've got an up and running gaming computer. And honestly, we're going to look at the benchmarks in a couple of seconds, but really satisfied with the results of what you're getting for $300. So for number one, the Firestrike score, 5112, which is a very respectable Firestrike score for this graphics card. By the way, I managed to overclock the graphics card to 1270. It's 1212 out of the box. It's not a huge overclock, but anything above that would start giving you stability issues. And the memory comes at 1750. I got it to 1800. So at 1800, anything higher than that, once again, stability issues. So that's what I'm getting. After that, we're looking at the TimeSpy scores, which are gave a combined scoring of 1900. I wasn't expecting much from TimeSpy, but I'm throwing them up there so that you guys can get them nonetheless. With a CPU score of 2585 and a graphics score of 1816. So not anything to write home about TimeSpy, but that's what we were expecting for this kind of computer. For Cinebench, I got a score of 529. With Ryzen on the market now, I know that score is laughable, but you know, for this old of a CPU, it's respectable once again, but I wouldn't expect to do much multitasking on the computer. Now the gaming scores. So we'll run through the gaming scores really quick, but you should see the graph on the screen right now. So for Dirt 3, by the way, I use pretty much high and ultra for all the scores. So everything is on high or ultra. Depending on the game, sometimes when ultra was rolling so-so, I put it to high. But it'll honestly, visually, to the naked eye, you can hardly tell the difference between high and ultra. So on Dirt 3, we had an average of 113 frames per second with a low of 97. For Doom with OpenGL, now I put OpenGL there just so that you guys could see, but there's no reason to run Doom, as you'll see with OpenGL. Average of 50 frames per second, minimum of 32. If we do run Doom with Vulkan, it's an average of 82 with a low of 45 frames per second. So once again, who's running Doom in OpenGL when you have an AMD card? I'm not too sure why you would want to do that, but if you are, you have the numbers, and you can see that Vulkan is always a choice right now for AMD cards. Titanfall 2, we have an average of 143 with a minimum of 132, so that game runs great on this setup. Overwatch, an average of 96 with a minimum of 70. Once again, great results. And basically, in the overall results, which is the graph you see now, I removed the OpenGL for Doom because, in my mind, if you have a better result with a different engine, why would you be running it on the weaker one, like the weaker one for that game? So I removed it from the averages, which gives us an overall average for our gaming purposes for the 4 games that we tested of 108 frames per second average and a low of 86 frames per second. So honestly, for a $300 budget build, running games on high to ultra, 1080p obviously, getting an average of 108 frames and a average low of 86 frames per second, I'm pretty safe to say that this is a solid gaming build for anyone that doesn't mind going budget and knowing that you're probably going to have to replace your rig in about 2 years. Because that's what I would say the lifetime would be for this. In the next 2 years, you'll start getting games that you'll have to either run on low or will start just being stuttering messes on this kind of setup. So I hope that you guys liked the video. I hope you guys liked the build. Leave comments if you have any questions, if you have anything you'd like to know about the system that I haven't gone over. And if not, I'll see you guys next time for my next build. You'll see we're going to go even more budget than this. We're aiming at a $100 gaming build. And I've almost got all the parts, so you should have that in the next couple of weeks. So keep tuned to the channel, and see you guys next time.